Only one ship? Are they mocking us? I growled, adjusting my atmospheric regulator as I paced the command deck. The entire Galactic Confederation sends a diplomatic fleet of 37 vessels, and these humans respond with a single ship? Oh, forgive my manners. I am Captain Jorax Neel of the Galactic Confederation Exploratory Division, and this was my first encounter with the most terrifying species in the known universe. Though at the time, we had no idea what we were dealing with. When our long-range scanners first detected Earth, our scientists nearly had collective neural failures. The readings couldn't possibly be correct. A planet with crushing gravity, toxic oxygen levels, extreme temperature variations, and radiation exposure that would kill most sentient beings within minutes? Surely nothing could evolve there, let alone achieve spaceflight. Captain Neel, perhaps their resources are limited, suggested my second-in-command, Trila Voss, her bioluminescent facial tendrils pulsing thoughtfully. Their solar system is quite isolated. I snorted, releasing a small cloud of methane from my breathing apparatus. If they can only afford one ship, perhaps we shouldn't waste our time. Our mission had begun as a standard observation protocol. New species discovery is routine in this sector, usually primitive lifeforms struggling to harness basic atomic energy. We expected to find, at most, rudimentary radio signals from Earth. Instead, we detected artificial satellites, space stations, and evidence of mining operations on their moon. All this from creatures living on a planet that would instantly kill 96% of Confederation species. Magnify the approaching vessel, I commanded, and the viewscreen shimmered to life. Their ship was bizarre. Compact, asymmetrical, with none of the elegant efficiency of Confederation design. It appeared almost cobbled together, yet our scans showed technology that rivaled or even exceeded our own in several key areas. "They're hailing us, Captain," announced Communications Officer Plax, his exoskeleton clicking nervously. "Put them through," I said, straightening my ceremonial cape. First impressions matter in galactic diplomacy. The screen filled with the image of a bipedal creature with minimal appendages and alarmingly exposed skin. No exoskeleton, no protective scales, not even decent fur coverage. Just soft, vulnerable flesh barely covered by some kind of artificial material. "Greetings from Earth," it said in perfectly translated galactic standard. "I am Captain Elena Kazan of the United Earth vessel Horizon. We come in peace and friendship." I couldn't help myself. I laughed. This soft, fragile-looking creature from a death planet thought it could stand as equals with the Confederation? With one ship? "We acknowledge your greeting, Earth vessel," I replied with what I thought was generous restraint. "Perhaps in time, with proper guidance, your species might earn associate status within our glorious Confederation." Little did I know how wrong I was. So very, very wrong. Part 2, Unexpected Capabilities. The diplomatic reception aboard our flagship was prepared according to Class C protocols for newly discovered primitive species. We provided separate atmospheric chambers, toxin filters, and gravity adjustments for their comfort. I even authorized extra security, standard procedure when dealing with unpredictable savages. Ambassador Nadia Blackwell, announced our protocol officer as the human delegation entered. I blinked all four of my eyes in succession. The humans wore no protective gear whatsoever. Just thin fabric coverings that left their faces and hands completely exposed to our ship's atmosphere. "Thank you for the warm welcome, Captain Neel," said Ambassador Blackwell, extending her bare hand toward me. "We look forward to productive discussions." My security chief, Krozak, immediately stepped forward. "Ambassador, you've forgotten your environmental suit. Our atmosphere contains elements lethal to most carbon-based." "Oh, we're fine," Blackwell laughed, waving dismissively. "We analyzed your atmosphere from our ship. It's a bit stuffy, but nothing harmful. Our medical team gave us some minor supplements before boarding." The room fell silent. My diplomatic staff exchanged nervous glances. Stuffy? I finally managed. Our atmospheric mix would cause respiratory collapse in 82% of known sentient species. Really? Another human, their science officer, I think, looked genuinely surprised. Interesting. Must be our nitrogen adaptation. Earth's atmosphere is quite variable depending on region and altitude. Variable, gasped Trila. How do you survive? We adapt, shrugged Blackwell. Humans live everywhere from oxygen-thin mountain peaks to deep underwater habitats. One of our research stations exists in a volcanic caldera where acid rain is common. I felt my nutritional sacks contract in horror. And this is normal for your kind? Oh, Earth is fairly mild compared to our colony on Titan, offered another human casually, while consuming our ceremonial diplomatic refreshments without scanning them first. Now that's a challenging environment. The meeting continued with similar revelations. Humans required daily unconsciousness periods called sleep, yet remained perpetually active. They deliberately ingested neurotoxins for pleasure. Their entertainment included voluntary exposure to simulated danger. Most disturbing was their casual demonstration of strength. When Krozak, showing off, activated our gravity controls to 1.3 times Confederation standard, the humans didn't even notice until we mentioned it. Oh, Earth gravity is about that, Blackwell said with a smile. Though during military training, many of us work in double gravity chambers. Later, alone with my command staff, I reviewed the encounter data. They've developed technologies we never considered, reported our science officer, trembling slightly. Their genetic adaptability alone is unprecedented. And their advancements in radiation shielding, gravity manipulation, and artificial intelligence. All from a single death planet, whispered Trila. I stared at the viewscreen where that lone human ship hovered. No longer did it seem small or primitive. Now it looked ominous. We may have made a terrible mistake, I said quietly. These aren't primitives at all. They're survivors. And I fear we've only glimpsed what they're truly capable of. Part 3, the challenge, a challenge of combat worthiness, as is our ancient right, bellowed Supreme Commander Grotax of the Dravax Imperium, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under our conference hall lights. I suppressed a groan. The Dravax, our militaristic allies, always did this with new species. Their ancient right was really just an excuse to intimidate newcomers and establish dominance in the Confederation hierarchy. Ambassador Blackwell's expression remained neutral. And the terms of this challenge? Grotax unfurled to his full 3-meter height. Send your 5 best warriors to face our champion in the Circle of Honor. If even one remains standing after 10 minutes, we will acknowledge humanity's place among us. If not. His mandibles clicked in what passed for Dravax laughter. I expected the humans to protest or negotiate. Instead, Blackwell simply nodded and activated her communication device. Captain Kazan? We've received a formal combat challenge. Please send Lieutenant Rivera over with the standard diplomatic combat package. My translator must have malfunctioned. Lieutenant? Singular? As in one human? Of course, Blackwell replied, looking genuinely puzzled. Why would we need more? 2 hours later, we gathered in the Confederation battle arena. The Dravax champion, Kralox, stood 8 feet tall with razor-tipped limbs and chitinous plating that could deflect energy weapons. The humans were sending one average-sized male with no visible armor or weaponry. This is Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, our diplomatic combat specialist, introduced Blackwell. I couldn't help myself. Specialist? You mean you have humans specifically trained for alien combat challenges? We have humans specifically trained for everything, she replied with that unsettling smile. It's what we do. The combat began, and initially, I found it amusing. Rivera was quick but seemed hopelessly outmatched against Kralox's 6 limbs and natural weapons. My amusement faded when I realized the human was studying his opponent, methodically testing defenses, seemingly unconcerned about the cuts accumulating on his body. "Why isn't he afraid?" whispered Trila beside me. "He's bleeding." Then everything changed. Rivera stopped retreating and launched a counterattack targeting the exact same joint in Kralox's exoskeleton, over and over with devastating precision. "Impossible," gasped Krozak. He identified the microscopic weak point in Dravak's anatomy within minutes. What followed wasn't combat, it was calculated dismantling. Rivera moved with brutal efficiency, each strike exploiting the damage caused by the previous one. When Kralox unleashed his toxic defensive spray, lethal to most species, Rivera simply held his breath and closed his eyes while continuing to fight. 7 minutes into the 10-minute challenge, Rivera immobilized the Dravak's champion using leverage points that our xenobiologists hadn't even documented yet. As medics rushed to both combatants, I noticed the Dravak's delegation huddled in shocked conversation. Their entire diplomatic strategy, centuries of ritual combat dominance, had just collapsed. "The human appears to have only minor injuries," reported our medical officer. "He's refused treatment, saying something about walking it off." I stared at Ambassador Blackwell, who looked completely unsurprised by the outcome. "Only one human," I whispered, finally understanding. "Because that's all you needed." Part 4. New Understanding. The Confederation Council emergency session stretched into its 5th hour. Species representatives from 17 systems argued over humanity's status while I sat in stunned silence, reviewing everything we'd learned. "They call their homeworld a Class M planet," explained our xenobiologist, Valera Tren. "What they don't realize is that by Confederation standards, Earth is a Class X death world. The gravity alone would crush most of our member species. Their atmospheric oxygen concentration is what we classify as actively corrosive. Their background radiation levels? We use similar levels for sterilization. Yet they thrive there," muttered Supreme Chancellor Ozaki of the Floxian hegemony. "And they find it pleasant." The data displays showed human historical records. Beings who conquered every environment on their planet, freezing poles, scorching deserts, crushing ocean depths. Beings who survived plagues, wars, and disasters that would have exterminated most species. "Their medicinal practices alone are terrifying," whispered Ambassador Locks of the Praxis Collective. "They deliberately introduce diseases into their bodies to build immunity. Their emergency medical procedures include cutting each other open and sewing them back together. And they consider this normal. Their recreational activities are equally disturbing," added another delegate. "They willingly jump from high places with fabric devices to slow their fall. They swim in toxic bodies of salt water for pleasure. Some climb frozen mountains without equipment just for the satisfaction of reaching the top." The discussion continued as we processed humanity's history of adaptability and innovation. How their brief conflicts drove technological advancement at rates that seemed impossible. How their fiction imagined problems just to invent solutions. "Has any Confederation species ever encountered anything like humans?" asked Chancellor Ozaki finally. The chamber fell silent. I cleared my throat. "Chancellor, I believe we have 2 options. Either form the strongest possible alliance with humanity, or..." I didn't need to finish the thought. "They've expressed interest in peaceful cooperation," offered Ambassador Blackwell, who had been invited to observe our deliberations. "Earth has a long history of forming productive alliances. And also of utterly defeating those who threaten them," noted Grotax, his mandibles clicking nervously. The Dravaks, previously arrogant, had become humanity's most vocal supporters after the combat demonstration. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be offered full Confederation membership with unprecedented autonomy. As the session concluded, I escorted Ambassador Blackwell back to the transport bay. "Your arrival has changed everything," I admitted. The galaxy will never be the same. Blackwell smiled that enigmatic human smile. We're just happy to be part of the neighborhood, Captain Neel. This is an exciting opportunity for all of us. I watched their shuttle depart for that lone human ship that still orbited our station. One ship that had completely upended galactic politics, rewritten Confederation protocols, and transformed our understanding of life itself. Trila, I said to my second-in-command as we returned to our duties, remind me to request additional funding for human cultural studies. Already approved, Captain, she replied. Along with mandatory human language training for all diplomatic personnel. I laughed despite myself. To think we once pitted them for having only one ship. Perhaps, Trila observed wryly, when you're from a death world, one ship is all you need.